Hey guys, Selwyn again from WynnStrength.com here on the third week overviewing THOR'S Power Program, a strength template created by the Australian strength coach aka Sebastian Arp. So we're going to start off like usual with day one. If you've been following along with the video series, you know that it follows a pretty similar path to last week. Phase one's pretty much the same. All we're changing is the load levels. So again, third week of doing safety bar squats. The movement still feels not great as a technical standpoint. I think the strength is getting there. I think I am slowly adapting to the movement. Definitely feels a lot harder than a regular squat. I figured out that rather than pulling or pushing in an upwards plane, if I pull the handlebars away from me right now, that seems to be what's feeling great and seems to be activating the back a little bit more to maintain that tightness. Definitely a different movement to the regular squat. It pulls you forward. You're fighting so much to stay upright while still being able to squat down to a regular level. I kind of like putting the GoPro back in this angle so we can see more of the back angle and also the knees. I mean, definitely in the regular squat you want to keep an eye out on how your back and knees are moving, because we've got a different kind of movement here. We'll see how this goes. So a little shaky, but the knees do maintain that point and don't really shoot back. So it is achieving, the safety bar squat is achieving what I think it's meant to be achieving, which is driving that back force and making sure you still squat with both quads and the back in unison. You can see my back angle doesn't change on the way up too much. It's still maintaining that same angle, so I'm not shooting the hips up first before my back pops back up, and the knees don't slide back either, which is indicative of the quad staying involved with the whole squat. When you see the knees shoot back and the hips shoot up, it's generally indicative of a back dominant squat, which is a little bit harder to achieve with the SSB being utilized. You can kind of see the knees. I've been paying attention to really trying to keep those knees out. By what's helped with me keep that motion in mind is the cue of rotating the feet out as if I'm screwing both feet into the ground. And that seems to have helped a lot, as well as just the cognitive thought of that. The secondary to that is the breathing and the bracing, which I've been working on a lot. And you can see there's a little bit of asymmetry in the movement there. The right side seems to be raising up a little higher than the left side, but nothing to really worry about. We move on to the second exercise of the day, which is a Bulgarian split squat with a rear elevated leg. Again, I like to use the SSB for this. I don't have heavy enough dumbbells to challenge it. This movement's actually feeling a lot better. If I give myself at least a 2-minute break in between the squats in this movement, I'm not as fatigued with the legs, and it feels a bit more natural and a bit more nice to do, letting myself recover just that tiny bit. So again, we're switching back here to the other leg. I still hold on to the cage for balance just because it's such a awkward movement being on my one leg, which I've neglected single leg and single arm training for probably over a year now. Been focusing really on barbell pressing and double limb movement just because I don't have access to the equipment that I would normally have at a gym. Here's a side view, again a nice informative view to look at how I'm moving and how everything's progressing. So you can see a lot of movement there in this setup. Just trying to maintain balance and feel I get a really nice stretch in the rear leg, which is a really nice thing with this movement. It kind of feels like you're getting a stretch as well as a workout. And I'll probably be the first to admit that it does look like I'm cheating a little bit in these reps. You can see the front leg isn't quite extending all the way. So just kind of to burn through these reps. And we're finishing off today with some standing calf raises, sorry. So again, more cheating reps here, not hitting the floor with my heel, which I like to do, and generally just getting that foot just above horizontal. So these really aren't true reps, so I could probably stand to lower the weight. Just a random thing here I like to do every now and then is just hang from a bar for a couple of seconds. I just feel it really helps make my back feel good, whether it's having any real effect or if it's just placebo effect, whatever the case may be. Just hanging there and kind of wriggling around a little bit. It takes a couple of seconds to actually let your body relax, as it were. So when you hold on, you're kind of tight, obviously, because you're trying to hold on to a movement, support your body weight. But if you give it a few seconds and just concentrate on releasing the back, eventually you start to relax a little bit, and that's where it just starts to feel nice, because it's like this decompression effect on the entire spinal column. So now we're heading back to the calf raises, a little bit lower depth here, but still just coming up to a horizontal level of the foot, as you can see. Yeah, I guess I'm cheating. So now we move on to day 2, which is the vertical push-pull segment of the workout. So we're now opening up with the superset of overhead pressing and chin-ups. So I've really been finding the amount of pressing and both overhead and bench pressing in this program to be really great. It's driving up my press and making me just feel more confident to push something heavy overhead. Going over to the fat grip version of the chin-ups, I went to the lesser used fat grip chin-up bar that I have on the cage. It's amazing what a grip difference changes in a movement. Having that wider grip really makes me feel way less confident doing chin-ups, doing any sort of pulling movement there. But back to the overhead press, I definitely think the amount of volume that I'm spending pressing and bench pressing is really helping drive up the ability for me to push weights overhead, more so than it was before when I'm just performing regular overhead presses. Something to do with the overloading with incline pressing and bench pressing. I haven't done much, if any, direct tricep work, so it's all coming from compound movement variants of pressing to help. Here I am choking up in order to get that good grip on that fat barbell, on the fat pull-up bar. The main difference is the standard grip pull-up bar is kind of what you'd grasp on a barbell, and the fatter grip option is very similar to what you'd find on the collars or the sleeves of the barbell. So it's interesting the neural effects of having not of a solid grip. So now we're moving on to some incline presses, using the brand new, 4-week-old AB 5000 from Rep, or AB 3000. I'll have to look that up. I am feeling more confident under the incline press here. I do kind of opt for wrist reps every now and then if my wrists aren't feeling up for it. It's mainly just stability. I don't think it drives up too much weight. I think it's more, it reduces the pain in my hands because of the pressure on them. And here I just leave them on when I do the pendlay rows. I take that back. Can't really grip a barbell with those on. I was surprised that I was going to do that. And decreasing the weight as well. That was a lot of weight. The one thing with the program I'm finding is that I've got a lot more residual lower back pain, or not pain, soreness and fatigue. So things like the pendlay rows really increase that, and I kind of am hesitant to add more weight when there's a little bit of fatigue in the back. I mean, is that necessary? Probably not. I could probably drive past it and add more weight, but it just doesn't feel great, and for the risk benefit, I'm not too concerned with that. Again, with the incline presses, is more of a 45-degree angle. I could have probably widened the grip out a little bit. My forearms aren't perfectly vertical in this movement, so I probably stand to widen the grip out like a ½ inch just to get that totally vertical forearm path. significantly dropped the weight. I've widened the grip a little bit. Fair amount of hip drive coming in here, but at least they're full range of motion sets coming through here. I think it does help build. Yeah, I think this is a great superset version there. Yeah, I tried to do a standing ab wheel rollout. Quite clearly that was not successful. So back to the kneeling varieties. One day I'm gonna get it. That's probably my year-end goal, is to be able to do at least one standing ab wheel rollout. I think I'll probably have to work up to a lot of volume with the kneeling version. Thought I just included that because that's pretty funny. So the final movement of the day are some external rotations with the band. I just took the shot off to show what you're kind of focusing on. You want to really focusing on rotating that out, and you'll see all the muscles in the near the rhomboid kind of start flexing and pushing through there, which is what you want to see. Moving on to day 3.1. So the reason is it's 0.1 is because I had to split up deadlift day into 2 days just because I ran out of time. Scheduling conflicts weren't great. So third week of snatch grip 1-inch deficit deadlifts, which I am not a fan of. They're great as an exercise, but I'm just not a fan of the movement, not a fan of how wide the grip is. It feels like almost I'm forgetting how to do a regular deadlift because I have to have that back angle as almost horizontal, it feels like. I mean, I know it isn't, but that's just how it feels. We'll see what that looks like in the upcoming video where I change angle to the side. And having to use the straps, it feels like my grip is really taking a beating here. Yeah, so the angle of the back is a lot more horizontal than usual. And you can see the hips shoot up just like a tiny bit right before the barbell leaves the ground, which was just, I should be starting off with a more horizontal back, or I could be driving more with the legs before the hip initiates the pull. So just 2 more weeks, well, 1 more week of snatch grips after this, and that'll be great. I would highly recommend not splitting up these 2 days. I learned the hard way that the decayed fatigue from doing deadlifts and then resting for a day, DOMS really has a chance to set in here, whereas if I continued with the workout this day, DOMS isn't possible. It's just tiredness during the course of a workout. I might think that I'll be refreshed the next day. Now, if you train to do that, that's fine, but if you're training like usual and you just so happen to have to cut a workout in half, just be aware that next day you're not going to be as fresh as you would have been, ironically, if you did the whole workout together. So 3.2 just becomes accessory movements for the deadlift. And in an effort to reactivate the lower back, I did perform about 10 minutes of rowing, probably RPE 6, nothing too crazy, to get that blood flowing again. Starting off with some RDLs at around 275 pounds. Using straps again and the belt just because the back still felt tight and fatigued from the other day. So I've been liking starting from the ground with the RDLs rather than starting from the upright movement, then walking back. It just makes me feel like I can set up a little bit better and brace my legs like a usual deadlift. Yep, lost a little bit of balance there, so leaning a bit too far back at the top, I guess. I generally come to just below the knee. I have been working on trying to make myself go a little lower each week at a heavier weight, just so I get used to just dropping down a little lower and getting more of a stretch at the bottom while still feeling it in my hamstrings. So I've noticed right about an inch below the knee is when I can still feel it in the hamstring, but anything below that starts to just feel like a whole body movement where I incorporate some more other muscles into the area. So by trying to isolate the hamstring, I'm trying to keep that right below the knee. I'm hoping to extend that range of motion out by lowering it each week and getting the hamstring used to firing up a little bit earlier. I didn't even know that's possible. Now, because of the lower back fatigue, I opted to do some front squats as opposed to another hinge movement, just to get some more lower body volume in there and get those quads fired up. Back in the day, I did like to do a deadlift front squat superset. I just felt like it hit both sides of the body. I felt like there was some good antagonist muscle groups to work together. In this case, I just didn't want to tax the lower back too much. So I did unprescribed, unlisted movement here in the program, so this is completely off the reservation. Just doing some volume in the quads and getting some heavy, some light work in with some front squats and just getting some volume in, get that blood flowing. Because I haven't performed front squats in a while, and again, none of this is on the program anymore. Did some planks just because I had some extra time, because this was weekend morning, so I had a little bit extra time than usual, and I cut out half of the training program on the day before. So rather than just call it a day, I threw in some abs, and I did change shirt because the next movement is going to tell you why I changed over to a tank top. I think I got about a minute and a half there. Biceps. When in doubt, just add more arm work, really. Whether you're cheating or not cheating, arm work is always better than no arm work, I think. Actually, that's a lie. By doing these extra movements, one could argue that I'm diverting resources away from the recovery of the deadlift. So there's that. Day 4, horizontal pushing and pulling. We have here 250-pound bench press. The bench press feeling great. Again, much like the overhead press, the bench press is feeling amazing as a movement. I think this program is great for pushing. It feels like it's just driving up these numbers, or because I'm doing them more frequently, my body's just getting accustomed to them. I don't know, whatever the case may be. Had pad over from training today. Again, the back feeling fatigued from the extra work I did, splitting that workout a couple of days, so the pen laborers aren't as strong as they should be. But they felt good enough to get that stimulus movement for the opposing muscle group when pairing them with the bench press. And I just want to take this time again to stress how good it is to have a community. If you own a garage gym, try and find a buddy, a friend, at least one person that can train with you. It might not have to be every day, but once a month, once a week, once every couple of weeks, because it's just great having that support and having a shared person that's trying to lift and get stronger. You're sharing common interests and creating a bond that I think a lot of people are missing today, especially when you're in the gym. Even when I was at the commercial gym, just being surrounded by people that wanted to lift is something that, one of the downsides of the garage gym is you're all alone in there for the most part. So having a buddy, even if it's once every couple of weeks, is great for moral support and just keeping their size with society, as it were. So bit more stable here with the bench press. I think technically, if you compare my bench press to years ago to now, there's definitely an improvement. It's a lot more stable. Everything's kind of firing properly, better than it was before. Now we move over to the accessory movement with the incline bench press. Level 3, so a little bit lower than 45 degrees. This movement again is feeling great. I think if you were going to do a template that helped drive upper body strength, this would be the template to do, because I've seen a lot more growth in my upper body pressing movements than I have with the lower body squatting and deadlifting. I don't know, that could be the program, that could be any number of factors, I can't tell, but from my own personal experience, that's what I'm finding with this program, driving up my pressing a lot. And not just the weight, because the weight might not be a lot as an absolute number, but the confidence I have pressing both vertically and horizontally has been the strongest that it's ever been in my training career. So you'll still get that arch when I like to do the incline press. I don't know if that's advisable or not, but it feels more stable and it feels like it mimics the regular bench press. And still focusing on pinching the shoulder blades together, keeping the forearms vertical. Even though I don't go all the way down to the chest, just because it starts to feel bothersome in the shoulder joint after a while. And it's a bit more of a higher rep movement here, you can see the bar path is still tracking quite well. I mean, the speed is there, so this isn't the heaviest I could have gone, but for the sets of 8, this is a good amount of weight for me today. A lot of leg drive there in the bottom part of that set. So he's definitely feeling the blood pumping there. So that was it for week 3. Thanks again for tuning in. Week 4 will obviously be next week or the week after. I'm a bit behind in these videos, sorry for that. I just had some scheduling conflicts. I'll put all the links below for the Thor Power program link. They're currently running a sale. I'm not sure how long that'll last. Check out my blog, WynnStrength.com, where I also document my weekly training overview in written form. I post links to the Instagram there, where I'm post a bit more frequently than I do here, just because I'm able to quickly upload that. So thanks again. This has been Selwyn from WynnStrength.com.